Hello and welcome back to Karma Stories. I'm Rob and I hope you are having a wonderful day today. Today, I have some stories for you from the Malicious Compliance subreddit. Make sure to follow us on your preferred podcasting platform, and if you're on YouTube, please drop a like on the video because it really does help us out. And my buddy Carmen here just might offer you a bite of his cookie. Or you could jump onto my website at dangly3d.com and pick up your very own Carmen Chameleon Karma Stories channel mascot, and yes, it does come with cookies. Carmen is available in 2 sizes on the website right now. Check it out for yourself at dangly3d.com. Alright, on to today's stories. Let's jump right in. This story comes to us from Firefighter C6973. Boss wanted to approve every social media post, so I asked for approval for everything. So I work as a social media manager for a small boutique that sells overpriced candles and crystals to suburban moms. It's actually not a bad gig. The pay is decent for entry level, and normally I'd have a lot of creative freedom to post whatever fits the vibe. Enter my new manager. She got promoted from sales to digital marketing director, aka my boss, about 3 months ago, and she has absolutely zero experience with social media. Like, this woman still uses Facebook to post blurry photos of her breakfast. Anyway, she decided that every single post needs her personal approval before it goes live. And I mean every post. Instagram stories, comment replies, even liking other accounts' posts. Her reasoning? We need to maintain brand consistency. At first, I tried to explain that social media works best when you can respond quickly and authentically, but she just kept saying, I need to see everything first. The problem is, she takes forever to respond. I'd send her a simple post about our new lavender candles, and she'd take 2 to 3 days to get back to me with looks good. Meanwhile, our engagement is tanking because we're posting maybe twice a week instead of daily. After about a month of this, I decided to maliciously comply. If she wanted to approve everything, then I'd make sure she got to approve everything. I started sending her approval requests for every single story I wanted to post sent individually. Each comment reply, even ones that just said thanks, requests to like other accounts' posts, approval to follow new accounts back, permission to use different hashtags, requests to share user-generated content to our stories. But here's the kicker. I also started requesting approval for platform maintenance stuff, like, can I approve this tag post to appear on our profile? And should I archive this expired story highlight? Within 2 weeks, she was getting 15 to 20 approval requests per day. Her phone was constantly buzzing with my messages. She started taking even longer to respond because she was overwhelmed. The breaking point came when a customer left a complaint in our comments about a delayed order. I sent her a message asking for approval to respond, then waited and waited. 3 days later, the complaint had been seen by hundreds of people, and other customers started chiming in with their own complaints. The owner saw the social media disaster unfolding and called us both into a meeting. My manager tried to explain her brand consistency strategy, but the owner just looked at our analytics showing our engagement had dropped by 60%. I got to explain that social media requires quick responses and that the approval process was killing our online presence. The owner asked if I felt confident managing the account independently, and I said absolutely. My manager is now in charge of strategic oversight, aka she reviews our monthly analytics, and I'm back to posting freely. Our engagement bounced back within 2 weeks, and I even got a small raise. The best part, she still occasionally asks me to send her drafts of posts just so she can stay informed. I happily send her screenshots of everything after it's already been posted. Jumping down to the comments on this one, we have one from a user called Haggis with Ketchup. It says, the biggest fail is a small boutique store needing a manager and a director in a specialized function with an active owner also overseeing that function. That math isn't mathing. I love how after everything went to crap, the owner went back to OP and asked them if they were confident managing the account independently. How did OP not look at the owner and go, yeah, you mean like I was before when everything was going really well? Before you brought in this person to quote unquote manage me, and everything went to shit. Come on. Now, I know OP said they got a bit of a raise out of this one, but it was a small one, so I would have used this as a negotiation point. Oh, you want me to go back to doing that job? That's a lot of work that I have to manage myself. So let's talk about my current compensation and see where we can go from here. This story comes to us from Dr. Pillow. Look for other jobs and see how much they offer? Sure thing, boss. I spent a few years at this company. The pay there is not as competitive, and we all got a measly 2 to 3% raise each year. Nothing close to inflation levels. I had been in a starter position and still studying on the side. So I agreed with my boss already a couple years ago that I'd get a promotion once I graduated. Well, last September, I graduated and asked for my promotion. I had looked over the worker union's salary statistics and the median would be around an 18% bump for me. I didn't expect to get that much because, besides them being cheap AF, the economy was bad and they had just downsized like 15% of the staff in July. Luckily, I had gotten myself into a strong position of being one of the only ones left with some unique skills, so I survived the downsizing. Anyhow, I show my boss a copy of the statistics and ask for the median. Boss scoffs and proceeds to fight as hard as he can to justify lowballing me. He says several things baffling to me, not limited to, "Darn, you're rich, bro," about my salary. No, dude, I'm really struggling in this economy. If I give you more, you'll just spend more. Not your concern what I do with my well-deserved money. No one at that level makes that much here, and that the statistics must be wrong. I later went around the office to find colleagues in that level. First coworker I asked earns exactly what I asked for. Brought up some concerns about my communication, petty things like me not replying to a colleague's email for like 3 days. 3 days during which I was off-site to give a course somewhere. But my favorite thing he said was, "You can go look for other jobs to see how much others are offering. You'll see it's not going to be any better." He lingered on my salary adjustment until December, negotiating with HR, and then finally offers me 11%, which is around what I actually expected. But there's a catch. Next year, I would not get the usual 2 to 3% salary adjustment like everybody else. WTF? I told him, deal. You see, I had taken his advice, or rather, called his bluff, and was already getting quite far in interviews. Come January, I land an offer from the top company in our field. Think Google or Apple, offering me what would have been a 35% bump. I hit my boss with the news. He promptly panics, says they want me to stay, they need me, my performance and development have been great, etc., but they can't match that offer because not even top management makes that much. I obviously didn't believe him, but I said, I understand it's not fair that I earn more than everyone else, just do your best. He runs to the top boss's office, and somehow, within 30 minutes, they magically found budget for a 30% raise. Perfect. Now I had leverage to negotiate an even better offer from my future boss. After all, I had already made up my mind to leave long ago. Jumping down to the comments on this one, we have one from a user called Real Ultimate Papo. It says, "There's a reason that people don't show loyalty to their employers anymore. Stupid BS like this, not paying people what they are truly worth. You took their advice and are so much better for it. Well done." This one is so interesting to me because I had a conversation with my dad, who is 75, a couple of days ago about the fact that he worked for the same company for 36 years before he retired, and that kind of thing really doesn't happen anymore. People hopscotch back and forth between companies these days, going for the better deals. And it really does seem like companies aren't willing to pay people what they're worth to keep them on staff. There's always somebody else who's willing to come in and take over your job at a lower rate, because finding jobs these days is pretty difficult. This story comes to us from Visual Session 599. You don't want kid food? Alright then, enjoy your plate. This happened when I was around 13, and it still cracks me up till this day. Every Sunday, we had a lunch at my grandma's house. She always went all out, pot roast, collard greens, spicy gumbo, and whatever else she felt like making. But she also made a separate batch of kid food, usually some mac and cheese, chicken tenders, or grilled cheese sandwiches for the younger cousins who were picky eaters. Now, I was the oldest of the kids, and one day I decided I was too grown for children food. I dramatically pushed away my plate and said, "I don't want kid food anymore. I want what the grown-ups are eating." Grandma gave me this long, slow look over her glasses and asked, "You sure about that, sugar?" I nodded like I was signing a contract with the president. She didn't argue. She scooped a huge portion of her extra spicy gumbo, poured some collard greens with vinegar, added some cornbread on the side, and handed me a big glass of unsweetened iced tea. That gumbo lit my soul on fire. My nose was running, my eyes were watering, and the vinegar from the greens wasn't helping. But my pride wouldn't let me ask for help. And you better believe I wasn't about to admit I missed the mac and cheese. Grandma walked by, patted my shoulder, and whispered, "Next week, I'll fix you some chicken nuggets again, unless you'd rather eat like the adults." The nuggets were back on my plate the next Sunday. This story has me wishing that back in the day when I was eating at my grandparents' place, that they would have had a separate meal for the kids, and we didn't have to eat what the parents were eating because venison, liver, and onions, they were disgusting to me as a kid. I still can't touch either to this day. My grandmother, though, rest in peace, made the best shortbread ever. I looked forward to it every single time I went over there, and it almost made up for those meals that I really didn't want to be a part of. Almost. But let's be honest here, if I could bring back my grandparents and still eat food with them, I would do it in a heartbeat. My grandfather passed in 1998, my grandmother passed 20 years later in 2018, and I'd give anything to have them both back. This story comes to us from Substantial Desk 670. Not my lot, not my problem. This happened decades ago for a food production company where I was a quality control manager. I regularly checked the quality of the food we produced and the food production lines for 4 plants in the area. One plant I inspected was operating within tolerance and received a generally good report, but I had to note one potential hazard. The parking lot was in terrible condition, and the dust that employees' vehicles kicked up as they entered and left could enter the plant and contaminate the food production line. I gave a copy of my report to the plant operations supervisor and suggested he get it taken care of before the USDA inspector noticed it. His response, "You were here to inspect food production, not the parking lot. I'm here to ensure the quality of the food product that leaves this plant." Bullcrap. And then he said the words every malicious complier thrives on. Don't tell me how to run my plant. 6 weeks later, the USDA inspector shut down the plant, citing the quality of the parking lot and the heightened risk of dust entering the food production line. Who knew? But even then, there was a workaround that could have kept the plant open. Only, plant operations had demanded that I don't tell them how to run their plant. Even so, I had to ask the following month after the lot had been repaved and the inspector had finally approved the plant to be reopened, why didn't you just close down the parking lot and have the employees park on the street? Schedule the repave on a weekend. The plant could have stayed in operation. He didn't lose his job. In fact, he retired from that company. So I guess it was a lesson learned, but he didn't talk to me again. Jumping down to the comments on this one, we have one from a user called Glenn Marshall. It says, being able to say, "I told you so," as a consultant is one of the most unsatisfying feelings. OP responded and said, "It is. I didn't want the plant to shut down or the food to be contaminated. We could have worked together to minimize the impact, but in my estimation, the only silver lining here is that my hind was covered because I documented the parking lot in my findings." And that is absolutely it. Like we've always said on this channel, document everything because you never know when you're going to have to use it to cover your own butt. So, quick question on this one. Does anybody else think that OP might have made a little anonymous tip to the USDA inspector? I think it's definitely possible in this case because they came out so quickly after OP had done their inspection. This story comes to us from QuickPair1429. You have to stay till 6 p.m. So about 10 years now, I worked the fly-in, fly-out lifestyle, and it was great. We would work 8 days on and get 6 days off. On the days we worked, it would be 12-hour shifts, and ours was 6 a.m. till 6 p.m. Anyway, we got this manager, and they were good at first, but over time they became more strict. One day, we were leaving at 5:55 p.m., which was very common for us as we carpooled from camp to site, about 5 kilometers away, in our work vehicle, even with the boss. We would leave camp at 5:30 a.m. and be at work shortly after, usually commencing at 5:40 a.m. most days, if not earlier. So one day, after leaving 5 minutes early, we were pulled into the office and told that we had to stay until 6 p.m. moving forward. Even after we mentioned that we mostly ate at our desk instead of going to the lunchroom, cue malicious compliance. The boss would get to the car at the normal time, 5:30 a.m., and we wouldn't get to the car until 5:50, even 5:55 a.m. at times. We stopped eating at our desks and took our 2 breaks away from work in the lunchroom. If disturbed, we'd ignore it or say we'd get to it after lunch. And we stayed until 6 p.m., even if work was completed. Some urgent tasks that were normally done while most people were on breaks stopped getting done or took longer. Sometimes the work carried over to the next day. Their manager caught on about 3 weeks later and asked us why. We explained what had happened. That afternoon, we were informed we could leave 5 minutes early moving forward as long as the work was done. Let's just say the manager only lasted another 6 months. Not sure if they were forced out or quit. Just a quick suggestion for OP going forward, continue to take your breaks away from your desk. If you're mandated to have them, take them. It's good for your mental health to actually step away from work for a little bit and get a bit of a brain refresh. I find this story quite interesting because OP and all the coworkers were okay with doing extra time in the morning. You don't owe them that extra time. Don't be proud of doing unpaid labor ever. This story comes to us from Mr. Jokester. Won't let me work from home while I'm contagious? Bet. I'm the type of person who doesn't get a lot of symptoms when I'm sick. A scratchy throat, a runny nose, but nothing that really knocks me out of commission. However, I try to remain aware that anyone else my contagious self infects might not be so fortunate. So one morning I wake up feeling off and text my boss that I'm going to urgent care and will let him know what they say. I get strep throat a lot and had it again, so they give me antibiotics and send me on my way. Call my boss and ask him if I can work from home. 100% of my job can be done from home. No, he says, you either need to take a sick day or come in. So I tell him, okay, see you shortly. Now, my boss is the type of person who doesn't really listen. He hears what he wants to hear, and most everything else goes in one ear and out the other. I pull into the parking lot, put a mask on, and head straight to his office. When I barge in, he's in the middle of a video call, so my one colleague overhears all this and has to keep from laughing. Boss says, "Oh, they gave you a clean bill of health?" I say, "Nope, like I told you on the phone, I feel decent enough, but I am sick and contagious." I reached into my pocket to pull out a pill bottle. Gotta be on these antibiotics for at least a day before I'm not. I even coughed a bit for dramatic effect as I stood there, breathing his air. "Oh," he says, the color beginning to drain from his face. "Well, why don't you go ahead and work from home today?" "I'll do that, boss." Funny how that's fine now that he's at risk. You know, OP, I think you handled that better than I would have in that case. I wouldn't have been wearing a mask walking into the boss's office, and then I'd be trying to make myself cough and sputter the whole time I was in there. You want to be a dick? You can be sick too, boss. Alright, I think we'll end this one here. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to follow us on your favorite podcasting platform. And if you're on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button and drop a like on the video. It really does help us out. I thank you for watching and listening. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.